So are you ready to PR yourself? We'll remove the mystery from all things PR, and we'll discuss everything from our top strategies to tips and tricks and everything that you can utilize to further enhance your brand or your message. I've been in media, I'm a journalist, and I'm also a publicist. I am Leah Frazier, CEO of Think3 Media, and your host for PR Yourself with Leah Frazier. Let's go. And welcome back to another episode of PR Yourself with Leah Frazier. I am your host, Leah Frazier, CEO of Think3 Media, based out of Dallas, Texas. And I am so thrilled to be back with another power-packed PR episode. But let me tell y'all, I am totally fangirling right now over our guest. And I'll get to it in a little bit, but she's awesome. She has awesome clients. And I just cannot believe that we connected for her to be on the show. I can't. I'm stunned. But anyways, I hope everybody's having a fantastic new year. I hope your 2025 is off to a great start. We just dropped the PR trends episode for 2025. So please go back, check it out. And the funny thing is that I received 2 emails today, one from PRSA, which is the Public Relations Society of America, and then another PR email on trends. I think it was from Cision. And the trends that we discussed in our episode are the trends that are, I'm literally looking at it right now, are literally the trends that were just posted for PRSA, a couple days ago. And I'm like, well, we did our episode in December, so we were first. So we are spot on. So if you want to look it up, I'll put it in the show notes. But pretty much PRSA is saying the same thing, that brand authenticity and other emerging trends regarding brand authenticity and storytelling are going to be the most major trends impacting PR in 2025. So I've said it before, I've said it a million times, that the storytelling aspect, no matter how many times it evolves, but your company and your brand's narrative has to be at the forefront of your strategy. And I'm seeing folks taking it a little bit more seriously. I actually had an organization reach out for some consulting with some nonprofits based here locally, and then some other ones across the U.S., just for getting their narrative down and figuring out the storytelling piece, which is my favorite thing to do. I'm an Aquarius, so my head's always in the sky with creativity, but it's important. It's what's converting an onlooker into an actual customer. And so I'm super excited. We talked a lot about AI. And so I'm looking at this report again, and it says, according to one study, 50% of consumers say they can tell the difference between AI generated content and authentic content created by humans. So just like we said in the prior episode, when we talked about trends, you can use AI. Everybody's using AI. Yes, you may need to use it to come up with story ideas or pitches, or maybe you're not the best writer and you need to polish or fine tune, but having AI do everything for you, people can tell. And especially if you're pitching journalists, editors, they don't want to see it. And it could really hurt your brand. And so to see PRSA literally repeating some of the same trends that we said before we even knew this report was going to come out, I think we're doing a damn good job. So that's that. Kind of moving into some PR hot topics. Last week we talked about Beyonce Bowl, and poor Mike. Mike, you my friend and everything, but he didn't know about Beyonce. He literally said he unplugged for Christmas. And me and Chandra were like, you really unplugged, because this was on social media for days. And Netflix is still posting about it on Instagram. But this week, I am enamored and almost awestruck by the buzz surrounding the Walmart Birkin bag. The workin' is what they're calling it. And it's almost the same buzz that we saw when Stanley Cups took off. And if you really looked at the case study of Stanley Cups and why they became so popular, I accredit TikTok to a lot of it. And of course, to our Gen Zers, who have this fascination with Stanley Cups. And just, it really changed the trajectory of that business. And when you look at it, it's fascinating because is there anything really and truly special about that cup? You know, I have what I call here at the house a family cup, and it's plain. I love the color. I love that it keeps, my coffee pretty much warm all day. So there are those little aspects of it where it's like, okay, that I can see structurally why people would go nuts over this. But when you look at it, it's just a cup, y'all. But everybody had to have this cup. People were fighting each other and duking it out when Starbucks would release a limited edition. They had to have security. Like, it was freaking crazy. But then I think about pandemonium when I was growing up with, what were those things called? Furbies? Was it Furbies? I don't know if it was Furbies, Cabbage Patch dolls. So every now and again, as humans, we go nuts over shit that I don't think we should go nuts over. But because I'm a fashion girly, I absolutely am just thrilled about this Walmart Birkin, okay? And so essentially what has happened is that Walmart has released, I think they said it's between $70 to $80, a Birkin bag or Workin, Walmart knockoff, that looks exactly like the Jane Birkin bags that celebrities and those folks pay $30,000. Sometimes, depending on the fabric, it can go upwards of $50,000, $75,000. So what's the fascination with this? Well, when I was doing more work in fashion, I read a book, if I could remember the book, but it had to do with a buyer or a stylist who he styled a lot of celebrities, and his job was to source these Birkin bags. And you can't just walk into Hermes and get a Birkin. You can't do that. Okay. Like, they had to look at your history of being a buyer with them. Like, he was explaining the entire process as to how you kind of get into this club to get your Birkin. Like, and it's almost like you have to get initiated. You can't just walk in the store and say, I saw Kim Kardashian carrying this, I want to get one. It just doesn't work like that. So it was a very fascinating story about how this one stylist or this one personal shopper had to pretty much negotiate and kind of go underground and find these Birkins for these clients that one of them that had the money to get it, but they didn't have that first kind of in. So to come here we are in like 2025 and see that Walmart has released this version that looks exactly like it. And then of course, all the girlies and everybody on TikTok is saying that it's real leather and that structurally it's actually made very well. And so again, from a PR perspective, just kind of watching this take off and seeing everybody's obsession with this Walmart Birkin bag when I was in fashion and I was studying this, as far as the Birkin and how it's acquired and all that other stuff way back when, we never would have seen this coming. And then people back then would have been like, oh my God, you got your Birkin from Walmart, darling, but now, and again, I'm going to give credit to Gen Z, and maybe there's a little sprinkle of millennials in there too, where it's kind of like, we don't give an F. We don't care that it didn't cost the $20,000 to $30,000, which again, this shift in our values is very fascinating. Studying consumer behavior, in psychology, extremely fascinating. I'm just nerding out right now to know that people are like, we don't give a crap. Yeah, I went to Walmart. When back in the day, you said you shopped at Walmart, people look at you like you're crazy. Like, you should be shopping at Target. But people are like, no, this is a really well-made bag. I don't care that it came from Walmart. Here's my bag. Here's what it looks like. And it's fun watching all the videos on TikTok. And here we are, Walmart, and whoever the brand is, I've got to go look it up. They have very well PR'd themselves into our 2025 Stanley Cup pandemonium. And so take a look at it. Let me know what y'all think. You can go to PR Yourself Podcast on Instagram, shoot me a message. I may even do a poll there just to see what folks think about it. And I actually pitched my editor at the Dallas Observer to see if any of the fashion girlies here in Dallas want to weigh in on what their thoughts are on the Walmart Birkin. But again, just another fascinating takeoff of a brand and a product that you wouldn't have thought. But again, social media, powerful tool. And TikTok, very, 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 very powerful as far as consumer behavior and purchasing power. So that is my PR hot topic for the week. Let me know what you think. So when we get back from the break, we are getting into our guest. I am so excited, y'all. Let me tell y'all, when I got this email about Julie Safer with Civic Entertainment, it didn't take me but 2 seconds to be like, bring her on. Because let me tell you, Julie is the mastermind behind all of that pandemonium and craze that you see with BravoCon. And if anybody knows me, they knows I am a Bravo fanatic. I watch all of the Real Housewives franchises. I watch Southern Charm. I watch anything Below Deck, anything that comes on Bravo. I am watching it. Andy Cohen, holler at me. I freaking love Bravo. So Julie Safer, she is the Senior Vice President and Head of PR at Civic Entertainment. With over 2 decades of experience working on high-profile accounts such as Peacock, Audible, BravoCon, whoop, whoop, and more, Julie is a seasoned PR executive who has consistently shaped cultural conversations across entertainment, consumer brands, and nonprofits. Y'all, Julie did some work with Whitney Houston and Bobby Brown. Like, we have that in the discussion, and I want to dig more into those stories, like off the record with her, because I just think her career has been fascinating. So she has impressive career hits, including launching series like Bel Air, Suits, and Girls 5 Eva for Peacock, as well as spearheading social impact campaigns for MTV and the Stonewall Inn Gives Back initiative. She is a master at connecting brands with culture and connecting them to audiences through creative, strategic storytelling. In this episode, we're going to be talking about how to launch similar high-profile campaigns. Small businesses should do it too. It's the same strategy that can help break through the noise, just like Julie did with all of these phenomenal initiatives. So please keep it locked in. The reason I brought Julie on is not because it is because I was fangirling a little bit, but the cool thing about PR is that even though somebody is working with larger names like this, it is the strategy that you look at. Just peel away all of the celebrity labels, peel away all of, the starry eyes that you may get with the work that they're doing, and look at the strategy, because you can mimic the exact same thing for your small business or your brand. And that's why I brought Julie on, because if you're thinking about doing an event, maybe you're doing a launch party this year, a summit, a conference, maybe there is a campaign around a product launch or something that you're doing this year. It is a similar strategy and is a similar mindset. So I really want you to listen to Julie. She is absolutely freaking brilliant. And I want you to keep it locked in here. And we will be back after the break with the absolutely amazing Julie Safer of Civic Entertainment.
This episode is brought to you by Kitcaster. Kitcaster books you on top podcasts. How do funded startup founders attract prospects and talent? Podcast interviews. How do entrepreneurs with exits find new deals? Podcast interviews. How do C-suite execs differentiate in crowded markets? Podcast interviews. Kitcaster books you on top podcasts. Click the link in the show notes for a special offer. Celebrate good conversation.
All right, welcome back to another episode of PR Yourself with Leah Frazier. I'm excited, Julie. I'm sorry. And it's coming from a fan perspective because, y'all, Julie has worked with Bravo and NBC Universal and Peacock, the New York City Marathon, which it's not going to be done in my lifetime, but I have friends that that's their goal. So, Julie, your goals. And so she's here on the show because as you're hearing about all of these big clients, she knows how to really make higher profile campaigns pop. And so here from Civic, we have Julie Safer on the PR Yourself with Leah Frazier PR show. Thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, thank you, Leah. And thank you for your incredible podcast. I always take incredible nuggets away. So thank you.
Thank you. Well, now you're going to be giving the nuggets and I'm going to be sitting back and listening. So I'm always curious about journeys into PR because everybody has their own. Like I'm the attorney and like we were talking about earlier and mindfulness and all these things. And then I found my way here. You have several decades in the business. How did you land on PR?
Yeah. Well, like many things, it's not the way that you think, especially as a Gen Xer. When I was coming up, people didn't have internships. Not like they do now, not like you have to have the internships. What I had was a job, and I had to have a job because I needed to go to college and I needed to buy books and I needed to have my life, right? I happen to be from Atlantic City. So I am fourth generation from Atlantic City, New Jersey, believe it or not. And my dad said, work in a casino because you got, pay during the summer times in college, you would get overtime and holiday pay. And I thought, this is amazing. This is perfect. And turns out I was working in promotions and they thought, oh, this girl's a little perky. We can put her in with some of the celebrities and the talent that we work with. And so I started working in casino entertainment. And again, this is a summer job. Didn't really connect that this could actually be a building block to something in the future at the time. But I loved it. I thought, oh my gosh, this is so much fun. Went back to college. I did it again summer over summer, and decided, I think this could be something. And when I needed to write a resume, that's what I put in the spot where it would have been blank, quite frankly. It would have been waitressing or this casino job. And I was really able to take those skills and articulate them, I think, in a way that were beyond the promotions booth and beyond the job description, and actually described in my own words what I was actually doing and how I was servicing customers and VIPs.
That's amazing. Tell me what were some of the parts of that you loved? Because I'll be honest, sometimes in Dallas when folks come and they're like, Leah, this celebrity's coming, we need you to kind of be the liaison. I'm nervous because I don't know, am I getting the nice celebrity who I perceive? Am I getting someone else? Or it's just you're nervous because they're higher profile. Like what were the aspects that you liked the most?
Oh my goodness. Well, when you're 18, 19, 20, I was kind of like, put me in, coach. I'll do any of it. But I'm a Gen Xer, and it was a golden time. So this was when The Bodyguard had just come out. And so I got to be with Whitney and Bobby a whole lot. Yeah. Yeah, it was good times. I got good memories from that. And I got to see Whitney in a very intimate showroom many times, summer over summer. Just incredible, wonderful memories. I know Whitney's my Jersey girl, and same with me. So really special, and Frank Sinatra as well. So it was really a different moment in time. But I think what I loved was what I took away from that, and I think I build on now, is understanding that every person in the room is a fan. It may not be the fan of what you are selling that day, but everyone is a fan. And you kind of have to find a person's soft spots. What burns their fire? What gets them going? It could be Whitney, as it was for me. It could be Ann Patchett, a author. It could be Jack Kerouac. It could be a band, a certain TV show. The conversations I have about the Housewives are epic. The kind of fandom that you spark from finding the commonality. Yes, you're a fan. Oh, good. I'm so glad. It's amazing. That's so great. But what I learned from that was the fandom and all these different types of talent and these, different folks coming together, because the commonality that brings people together more than anything else is this fandom. And we see it every day. And those are the stories that we're telling. And I love talking about that.
I love you hitting on that because even though it's fandom, it's entertainment, it's kind of like in that pool, even digesting that down for a small business owner and an entrepreneur, it really gets down to how are you pulling together that target audience
Yep.
that believes in what you do, that gets excited about what you do. So I love that there's this common thread. And I feel like sometimes with some of our listeners, they just feel like I can never do that. I'm not big enough, and here you are still speaking the same language, even with some of those larger name clients.
Yeah, and I was a kid at that point, but then when I eventually went on to Edelman and I went to, a big agency and I started working not with talent at all. So it wasn't as glossy. It was more low interest category brands, as we like to call them. God love them, but they were big brands. And I learned how to think very specifically and think hard about things that were harder to market. Right. And I think that's probably a lot of your listeners are in that position, right? People may not think a paper towel, and I literally worked on paper towels, no joke. I worked on toilet paper, I worked on paper towels, I worked on mouthwash, I worked on toothpaste, I worked on chocolate, I worked on, you name it, a CPG or some kind of consumable category. I really worked on it in the consumer space. And it may not be that interesting to many, but how do you make your brain do the acrobatics that you find the soft spot that we were talking about that is relatable to people? And you can do it. You really can do it. You just kind of have to think, in a way that's you're not just selling a paper towel, you're selling a product that keeps you healthy, you and your entire household healthy. Because when you're wiping your hands dry from a paper towel, you're not spreading germs all over your kitchen and into your family and your children, right? So that was one of the angles that we took. We also took a fun angle and did a contest to put your loved one's face on the brawny paper towel roll with a contest. Do you know Brawny Man? We did a lot of fun things, like how do you make it relatable? How is it relevant to Dallas like it would be in New York City? How is this product actually relevant and how do you get people talking about it? I think that's where I learned when I was at Edelman that pop culture is everywhere. And pop culture doesn't just mean My Beloved Housewives. It means all kinds of things. The brawny man in your grocery aisle is pop culture, right? All of those things make the culture that we are made of. How do we get people talking about it and talking about it the right way?
That's fascinating. And there's something inside of me that remembers that, where I thought that was cool. I would want that because it's more personalized, or it makes you feel like it's more personalized. So that's genius.
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh, good. But then I brought the talent back around. I went on to PMK. And I, really knew I loved the talent. I wanted to go back to the entertainment space that I had loved so much. But I brought all of that brand strategy with me when I went to PMK, and I started building this consumer brand group at PMK. Did that for a few years, and then, much like I'm sure many of your listeners, broke off and created a teeny company with the president of PMK. He and I broke off and created a little company of two people called Culture Shop. And it was magical. It really was. It was a magical experience, very entrepreneurial, built as a consultancy and grew into an agency. Not sure we had ever really envisioned that. But then we were acquired by Civic, which is where I am now.
That is amazing. Congratulations to you. And I do want to tell the listeners too, I was on the website that you guys won some fabulous awards this year as well. So I'm like, award-winning agency, and you're like, that wasn't on my bingo card. I was just doing what I love to do, and all of the greatness has followed. So that is amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So one of the things we're going to talk about today are these kind of high-profile brand campaigns that you have helped to launch. However, tailoring some of the strategy down for small business owners. And so as I was kind of going through our notes for the show, and it's so funny because in the pipeline, it's not even published yet, are these episodes on storytelling. And it just keeps popping back up. So even as you talking about the brawny man or this piece of chocolate, or like it's all in when you were talking about wiping your hands and your family, it's like creating the story, and I could see the imagery in my head that connects you to the brand.
Mm-hmm.
And so you've done that for many clients. And why is this central piece the most important for people to get it good?
Yeah, and get it good. That's right. It's interesting, as you were saying, you're envisioning, the campaigns because you haven't lived them, right? But you want someone to envision them and what you're talking about, if it's a current story or something you're doing in the future or something you did in the past. I found myself probably around 2008 working in some TV work and TV series, and that is much of my business right now. I'm working across all different streamers and networks, and just wonderful originals, scripted, unscripted films, competition shows, dating shows. I can tell you all about those. All kinds of stuff. But I think what intrigued me is I love television so much. I love television. I loved it as a kid. I'm a kid of the 80s. I was raised on TV. That was my babysitter. I loved it. But as I see PR campaigns unfold, they are like a Netflix series, right? Kind of. I think people can kind of look at it. They can challenge yourselves to think in a bit of a different way. It's probably the same thing you're doing, which is, I'm sure 9 out of 10 times just right, but kind of challenging yourself to think of it like a series, right? Because we all are watching these series and we can all relate to them. But you need a really good news hook, right? You need a story that has some continuity. You need a big finale, right? And that could be your event if you are open for a big event. But before that big event, right, which is potentially your finale, you need a whole campaign before that event. The event just doesn't come first. It really doesn't. I think a lot of people do believe that the event component, because it does seem glossy, and a lot of folks will say, "Oh, well, we'll do the event and everything will launch." It's we have to do some education first. We have to get people to understand. In the case of a television show, we need them to watch. We need critics to review, and then we need to have an event and celebrate, right? And get the talent talking, or get the executives out there talking about, what we've already seeded. So it really is a multi-pronged campaign. But if you look at it kind of like you would a TV show, or the arc of a TV show and the narratives that we love, whatever your show is, I guarantee it has those three things, those three components. And then as you look to post-event, think of it as season 2. All right. We just had a killer season 1. We're nominated for the Emmy. We're out there. What are we going to do for season 2 to outdo ourselves? How is our writing going? How is this going to be even better? How are we going to top ourselves?
Did you know that podcasts are a great way to grow your personal and business brand voice? Listen, here's a secret. We all want to feel connected to brands we buy from. So what better way to humanize a brand than through sharing your story on a podcast? Think about it now. You in bright lights and on PR Yourself with Leah Frazier. Hey, it can happen. Listen, Kitcaster is a podcast booking agency. They're one of the friends of the show that specializes in developing real human connections through podcast appearances. So if you're an expert in your field, you have a unique story to share, or you have an interesting point of view, it is time for you to explore the world of podcasting with Kitcaster. You can expect a completely customized concierge service from their staff of communication experts. Kitcaster is your secret weapon in podcasting for business. Listen, your audience is waiting to hear from you. Don't make them wait too much longer. So what you're going to do, you're going to head to kitcaster.com. That is kitcaster.com/PR yourself to apply for a special offer for friends of this podcast. And listen, don't delay. Get with it today. A lot of your amazing guests that you guys love so much on this podcast came from Kitcaster. Don't delay. Next time it needs to be you. I think that is amazing that you've pointed this out, because even as you're speaking about it, I'm thinking of some of my favorite shows and I'm like, yeah, they're so, like, I posted one in my stories today. My sister is here from Tokyo and we were out having drinks and she was like, do you think, Young, Famous, and African is coming back on Netflix. And I was like, I don't think so, because season 2 was like 2023. We're getting out of 2024 into 2025. If they were going to bring it back, they would have brought it back by now. And late last night, I follow the whole cast. One of the girls posted the trailer and everybody is going nuts. And all of the castmates are posting the trailer. So now we're just hanging on till January 17th. But to your point, if you notice, it's not just that post and then January 17th. There's going to be this lead up. Maybe there's media, maybe we see a series of photos from the season or videos that they've done leading up.
Exactly.
So to your point, it's much more than I have an event and then you just post the Eventbrite link and think that's it. There has to be some excitement that builds up to the climax.
A build, like a plot, like any plot in any story that you would ever tell. There is an escalation, right? There should be a feeling of an escalation that has a crescendo. But then you do need to figure out ways to maintain those steady beats, but it should feel like this. And oftentimes I will hear folks say, oh, my clients, they want us to be up here all the time with our storytelling and have it's not sustainable. And sometimes we have to explain things, I think, a little differently, right, to our clients. So, when is the hyperlocal moment? Hyperlocal, don't sleep on the hyperlocal because, right? Do not sleep on the hyperlocal. It is huge. It makes things happen. And they are out there. And anytime people say, oh, there's no local media anymore, that is not true. Yes, it's tough times. I'm not going to discount that. But no, people are out there. There are influencers. We work with people all the time in markets all over the country, and they are, excellent journalists and, great storytellers. So, don't sleep on the hyperlocal. I would definitely say to folks. And not everything is Good Morning America or the Today Show. That the amount of times I hear, get me the Today Show or get me the morning show, the numbers. And by the way, I love my morning shows. Every day they're in my living room. I wake up with them every day. I can't live without them. But if you are looking at reach, you may want to consider some alternate ideas, right? And there are tons of ideas that we can come up with, and that is part of the mix, but it is not the only solution. So when people do get some of these more hyperlocal hits, or entrepreneurs are looking at a small business story in their community, they should be high-fiving one another, patting themselves on the back, and really celebrating that, because that is difficult. It is very difficult, and it should be celebrated. It's a big deal.
I'm going to clip that, and I'm going to send that to all my clients. Be like, Julie said, you should be patting us on the back.
Yeah.
But I love how we're kind of segueing into this, because yes, you can build the campaign, but to your point, all of these different layers of distribution, like who is it going to help amplify your message? But switching your mindset where it's not always just about, I have to be on TV or it has to be on GMA3 or the Today Show, Yeah. To your point, maybe it is hyper local, and then some of these non-traditional outlets that you're not even considering that have further reach. So how do you utilize that within your campaigns that you work on?
Yeah. And you're hitting more people that have, much heavier engagement, right? So you might move downloads if it's a podcast, or you might move, units if it's a product, much faster. I will say that some clients will come to me now and say, oh, do you also pitch podcasts? Do you also pitch influencers? And what I say, we did a premiere in December for a hit show, Day of the Jackal. It's fantastic. Watch it if you can. And we actually had a TikToker on our carpet right next to Access Hollywood, right next to all of our photographers.
I love seeing when that happens, especially when I'm like, I have followed this influencer since day one, and here you guys pulling them in. It's just genius. Genius.
So it's not every case, it has to be the right case, but just like any journalist would be invited to cover, in this situation, it was a red carpet, but cover any campaign, whether it's a virtual junket or an interview, that is like saying, do you pitch radio, or, do you pitch, print? Nowadays, I think 2025 in the election, certainly there's so much conversation about that, but I feel like everyone is caught up with us, right, Leah? Like everyone, and I've said this to people, I'm like, everyone's kind of caught up with where we've been since,
We've
like,
been
I don't know,
telling you to do
2020.
podcasts. We've been telling you to get on these podcasts. Now that that happened, it's like, can we do some podcasts?
Yeah, it's their idea or something. I'm like, interesting. But yeah, I'm glad that there is a new lens on podcasts and what they bring to the table, and long form in general. But what I think is going to happen, which I'm very excited about, is more hyper local podcasts are going to be very hot in 2025. And as we see, and I know there are so many podcasts, but I think people are really looking for hyper local content. We're seeing a lot of people talking about how network affiliates are kind of having a little zhuzh right now. Whereas everyone said, "Oh, network is dead." Vulture this morning put out a piece. I was just reading it this morning. Network television is back. All the great shows on network, everything happening on network. So nothing is ever dead. Like, let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater ever. But I think that we curate all of our lists with this holistic media mix. And I think that's how we're looking at things now. But that it's that holistic mix of media that really makes any campaign rise, right? That's what makes things go, as we say. You can't just have one of anything. Some people will say only one broadcast. That's not going to work either.
I love that. And I love the hyper local mix that you're talking about, which sometimes gets thrown out because people have these pie in the sky ideas. And it's just like, but don't leave those folks out. There's actually a couple of outlets here in Dallas. They're just like these random bloggers that somehow make it to some of these scenes before the cops sometimes, or they get there before the news stations.
Wow.
And when we have press conferences on really big civic or social issues, I send it to them, and they have these millions of followers on YouTube. And I'm more excited that they came out than the news station.
Totally. Reach. Well, that's like, we have our stations here, like News 12, New York, like some of our, our more local stations, and those will run. And also they run on loop. So if it's on the Today Show, it evaporates. I mean, sometimes you can get it on digital, but not always. But when you get like a New York One or one of the, the cable channels here that are local to wherever you live, News Channel 8 when I lived in DC, or, whatever it may be, the Spectrum news channels, they run on a loop. So that segment that you secured, that local segment, will run like 4 times in addition to online. Much further, has better reach, if you ask me.
So don't rule it out, folks. You heard it here first. Don't rule it out.
That's right. That's right.
And so one of the last ideas that you guys do quite a bit, I was kind of reading up on your work with BravoCon and some of the other fantastic campaigns that you work on, is this collaboration with influencers, community leaders, or other type of collaborators to really make that high profile campaign pop. So how do you engage or figure out, like, this is the right influencer? Because now word on the street is it isn't all about numbers anymore. Okay, so what are we looking for? And sometimes for small business owners, it's the last little bit of their budget. So they want that ROI. What's some best practices that you guys use?
So research. I would never pitch a news outlet, come on a podcast, do anything without having done my research. And I mean, truly, like, really know it, and not in a cursory way. I mean, really know it and understand, where this content creator is coming from. But you need to look back a little bit. You can't just look at like the last 2 things that someone did. I would go a little deeper. I would look at the topics. If you can't, read, or obviously you can't read everything, but, look at the headlines, look at the subheads. And, that's for all kinds of content, influencers as well. But we really hand curate all of our lists. And I know it sounds ridiculous, and there's so much chatter and, Facebook groups and so on about Cision, and it's a wonderful tool. All of these tools, Muck Rack and so on, they're great tools. But really, I find basic research so much better. I am on Blue Sky now. I don't know if you're on Blue Sky, but I am on. Kara Swisher says to be on Blue Sky, so I said, "Who am I to say no to Kara Swisher?" I said, "Okay." I signed up for Blue Sky, and it's basically non-toxic Twitter.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So sorry, light bulb just went off. You are the second person this week that told me to go to Blue Sky.
It's happening.
And
yeah.
Whoever I was with, they showed me in person, like, girl, you got to come on over.
Yeah. Yeah. And the reason I note that one is because back in the day, Twitter was my best tool, not Muck Rack that I paid into, not Cision, not any of this stuff. Twitter was my best tool to find journalists, influencers, journalists, whomever, because I could see the chatter and I could also see how they were talking to one another, right?
And they would use hashtag journal request.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And they would also, if Kara Swisher, for instance, posted something, she would then get comments from all her friends. Well, her friends might be people I also want to follow, pitch, listen to, investigate, research, right? So it's interesting to see the ecosystem of these journalists, and you can really track it and find it on something like the old Twitter. I wouldn't recommend it now, the new platform, but I do think on Blue Sky, so many journalists are very early adopters on Blue Sky right now. So it's fascinating. If you go on there, yes, this is a tip. This is a hot tip, friends. Go on Blue Sky, get your account and do some research and find some stories. Like follow all your magazines, follow your local folks, follow your big podcasters. They're on there. They're on there.
That is the major tip. I'm telling you, you are the second professional this week that has said, are you on Blue Sky? Why aren't you on Blue Sky? Somebody walked me through it, and I'm sorry that I can't remember who it was, but this is amazing.
No.
This is amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, and you will really uncover people, and they may be people. Sometimes they're people that you already knew or knew of, or whatnot. I was working on a TV show that was a cleaning organization type show, but it was called the Swedish Death Cleaning, and it was about people who were experiencing grief. And it's a book based in Sweden, but it came to the United States, and they did like house makeover type shows. But it was like a deeper, you would like it, very mindful, very meditative. It was really about organization and organization of your mind, like a deeper level than Marie Kondo. But it was really heartfelt, and because it dealt with grief, I had been on, I think, Instagram and reading newsletters of many journalists, and I actually had clocked a couple of journalists who had recent losses. Now, mind you, this is right after COVID. There were so many people losing people. And so it just kind of clocked in my mind. And both of these national outlets wound up covering the show because I was able to pitch them, not on, hey, I have a new TV show, you should watch it, and not preying on any personal situation either that they had, but really meeting them in a moment that I think we were all living and writing something that was very earnest and authentic. And, it did work out. It did mean, I said, I think this will mean something to you. It meant something to me. I think the show will really mean something to you. And it did, and it worked. But I think it's because you're earnest, because you're paying attention, you're clocking when people are, what they're talking about, what are the things that mean to them? Did they go to Michigan? And I have something going on with Eminem. Did they, what is the connective tissue? Like we were talking in the beginning of this conversation, what is that fandom? What is that soft space that we can connect?
I love that, because that's just being intentional across the board. Yeah. And I've said it a million times, like, don't just chat GPT this blanket pitch and then you send the same pitch to everybody and it's not personalized in a way, or you don't know your morning shows or your news anchors or your editors in that very personalized way. And so I think that's a tip again that can separate you from the masses, is really doing that research and taking the time and being patient. Then once you have it And let's say you're a great guest or you give them a good story, you're kind of in their pocket for a while.
It's true. It's true. And they'll remember you. You know, I've had writers of the New York Times say, oh, well, Julie's a good publicist. And I know what they're trying to say, but it's a compliment. But I think they're, you know, sometimes they're suspicious. Certain journalists are suspicious of publicists. And really, we help them out. We help them out.
I'm like, I'm your help. So sometimes I send them stories that aren't clients where I'm like, I know you're so busy. This is what's going on in Dallas. And that helps to create that relationship where it's like, it's not always transactional. I'm genuinely here to give you stories that you care about. So glad you brought that up, Julie. I mean, you're just patting me on the back all day. We could just keep you around. So, and then
the last thing you asked me about BravoCon. And I think that,
yes, I'm obsessed.
Good. I hope you'll come to the next one. But, you know, BravoCon is fascinating for so many reasons. And the fandom is, again, unparalleled. And how that brand has been managed is enviable by all standards. It's really beautiful and enviable. They just do such a great job. But I think what's most intriguing is the people who love that brand are the best thing about that brand. And the brand would agree, right? It is the people, the passionate fans, and what they do for this fandom, and the fan art that they make, and the podcast that they create.
The Reddit threads after each episode.
Yes. I mean, it's incredible. It really is. It is so incredible. But the other thing that when we actually started doing BravoCon in person, we actually got to meet these fans en masse in person. You realize how underserved many of them are. Women in midlife, right? Who are completely underserved. You know, many brands are not meeting these people where they need to be, but this brand is, and they have captured a very loyal audience. And I think that we're starting to see that now when everyone's talking about menopause now. Everybody's talking about midlife. This is the hot topic. One of my clients is a menopause client actually too. But it really is, and every celebrity's talking about it. It's kind of in vogue. But you know, Bravo was really talking to people of all backgrounds, of all ages for a very, very long time. And it's just interesting. I think now women in midlife are very in vogue, and I'm here for it because I am that woman. So I'm here for it.
It's a big conversation here too. One of our leading doctors here, she travels all over now talking about, she just had a new book come out about perimenopause and all of that. And so we've done a lot around that because that is a big topic of conversation.
It is.
I wonder, and I don't know if you've ever talked to him about this, but I wonder if Andy Cohen ever saw Bravo, the Real Housewives franchises, and BravoCon being what it has become today. And has he ever just kind of stepped back to just kind of, you know, let it all just kind of settle in?
Right. You know, I think everyone at Bravo, Andy included, they never take for granted one moment of what they're living. And I think that's one of the things that's most special, and they cherish these fans. I mean, it is all about the fans, and which is why they do these BravoCons, right? Which is why Watch What Happens Live is live, which is why Andy has a studio audience, right? He wants to connect with fans. And I think the entire network, the brand, they connect so beautifully. I think they're like, isn't this great? And even in some of the panels, and you can go watch some of the panels on Peacock. They have them recorded. You can go back and watch them. You know, he talks about that. Like, you know, he's on stage doing Ask Andy panel or doing a live Watch What Happens Live like we did in Miami last month. And everybody is having fun, right? It's just having fun. So you definitely feel that energy. And again, it's just these passionate fans, like building these passionate followers. It's incredible. Yeah.
Well, that was very special. Thank you for that little bit of intel, Julie. And just congratulations on everything, your journey, your career, everything that you've done, and the advice that you've given these small business owners today is just very, I mean, even just the blue sky tip, invaluable. I'm going to go download it like as soon as we get done. If folks want to connect with you or stay in touch with everything that you guys are doing over at Civic, how can they reach out?
You can follow me on Instagram at Julie Safer, at Julie Safer. You can also email me at julie.safer@civic-us.com. But please reach out. Love to chat.
Thank you so much, Julie, for your time. This has been excellent, excellent, excellent. I hope you have happy holidays, a Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year, and all the things to follow.
All the good things in 2025. Thank you so much.
All right. Bye. And there you have it. Now, y'all, I am not hard of hearing. I am not hard of hearing. And when we were recording this episode, my sister was sitting in my living room while I was on the Zoom with Julie, and she overheard that I got an invite to BravoCon. So I'm going. Julie, if you hear this, I am going. I will hit you up. I will clear my calendar. If I'm overseas, I am flying wherever y'all are having BravoCon. I need to be in the building, and I'm going to be the loudest one in all of the sessions. Please believe, because I'm very opinionated with these shows. But anyways, she was absolutely a doll. Loved having her here on the show. If you have any questions for Julie, please reach out to her. Connect with her on LinkedIn. Support her. She's doing absolutely amazing and incredible work. If you like this episode, you know what you've got to do. You've got to follow the show first. Subscribe. And I want you to share this out. This isn't just for you. It's for everybody else in your network that's out there grinding, and you're doing the absolute freaking best that you can do. So please share this out. I have no idea what I'm talking about next week. Oh, yes, I do. So next week we're going to be talking about, it's going to be a very brief episode, but mistakes you guys are making when you're trying to further develop your thought leadership with books or become an author. I'm going to tell you the top 3 mistakes I see all of you guys making, and it's driving me absolutely nuts. Okay. So keep it locked in. If you want to bypass that whole discussion, I'm actually doing a DIY PR and marketing, launch it like a pro author workshop on January 18th, virtually online. So the link to sign up for that will be in the show notes. It's just $99. It's 3 hours. I'm giving you all the tips and tricks for becoming the high profile author you want to be, how to approach your PR and marketing strategy, how to beat that algorithm on Amazon if that's something that you're trying to do, and post-launch strategies. I will also be giving, for those that sign up for the extra freebies, well, they're not freebies, for the extra stuff, templates for PR pitches, for press releases, and then there's also an option for you to add on a one-on-one 1 hour session with me so we can go over your book and I can tell you my thoughts on your particular PR strategy and the hook to get you booked on those placements with podcasts, TV, news, radio, and all of the above. With that said, go ahead, find those links in the show notes. Hit me up if you have any comments or there's any future episodes you'd like to see. And until next time.